Atlanta International Airport, a bustling gate. The crisp, powerful voice of Dr. Lena Thorne, CEO of the $1 billion tech behemoth Ether Dynamics, cuts through the gate's noise. She's impeccably dressed, a picture of absolute success. She holds her boarding pass, seat 1A, first class. A gate agent, flustered, avoids her gaze. A moment later, an entitled, sneering man in a cheaply tailored suit, Mitch Sterling, shoves past her, flashing a boarding pass that also reads 1A. "Move it, lady," he drawls. "Some of us have important business to attend to." Lena's eyes narrow. The agent whispers, "Sir, there's been a mix-up, but we need you to take 14C. It's a VIP request." What happens next is a masterclass in quiet, devastating corporate retribution, triggered by that single, humiliating moment. The air inside the Delta Sky Club at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, ATL, was a carefully curated blend of leather, faint espresso, and the low, urgent hum of international finance. The walls were a cool, corporate grey, accented with abstract art that likely cost more than a small home. Dr. Lena Thorne, 42, black, brilliant, and terrifyingly successful, preferred the club's quiet hum to the chaotic energy of the main terminal. She was the CEO and co-founder of Ether Dynamics, a company that, in just 7 years, had developed the proprietary AI-driven infrastructure that managed almost half of the real-time logistics for the largest shipping conglomerates and several major defense contractors in the Western Hemisphere. Her personal net worth was in the 9 figures, and the company's valuation had just tipped past the $1.2 billion mark following a Series D funding round led by Blackstone Group, securing a critical partnership. Lena finished her final review of the presentation deck for her meeting in Zurich, a pitch to acquire a specialized European robotics firm, and checked her watch. Flight DL 128 to Zurich was boarding in 20 minutes. She stood, her tailored Italian blazer settling perfectly over her frame, a subtle movement that commanded attention. She carried no visible luggage beyond a slender, high-end briefcase. She traveled light, fast, and always in first class, seat 1A to be exact, the gate, E34. As Lena approached the priority boarding lane, the usual procession of gate agents and ground staff stiffened, recognizing the silent power of a true first-class elite. She held out her phone, the digital boarding pass illuminating seat 1A. The gate agent, a young man named Travis, with nervous energy and a too-tight collar, scanned her pass. The scanner beeped, not the usual affirming chime, but a flat, dull thud sound. "Excuse me, ma'am," Travis said, fiddling nervously with his monitor, avoiding her direct, intelligent gaze. I think there's a slight issue with the seat assignment. The system seems to have shifted things around." Lena raised an eyebrow, a tiny, almost imperceptible movement that nonetheless conveyed the weight of a decade of high-stakes negotiation. "My ticket was purchased 3 weeks ago, Travis. Seat 1A. There are no shifts." Her voice was low, measured, and carried the kind of authority that didn't need to be loud. Before Travis could stammer an explanation, a loud, self-important cough sounded behind Lena. "What's the hold-up, pal? Some of us have planes to catch, and I'm not waiting for your system glitches." Lena turned slowly. The man standing there was an embodiment of mediocre self-importance, Mitch Sterling. He was in his late 50s, pale, with a rapidly receding hairline, and wore a suit that was clearly expensive, but worn with the graceless air of someone who had recently acquired money, not inherited the quiet confidence that came with it. He carried a bulky leather duffel bag that looked like it had been dragged across 3 continents. Mitch pushed past Lena, leaning in front of the counter. "Look, my secretary booked this. It's a very important flight. Get me on board." He slammed his phone, displaying his own boarding pass, on the counter. The gate agent, Travis, looked from Lena's digital pass to Mitch's physical one, then back to his screen, his face draining of color. Both passes distinctly read, Seat 1A, First Class. "Sir," Travis started, beads of sweat forming on his brow. "Mr. Sterling, you are confirmed for 1A, but—" Mitch cut him off, jabbing a finger toward Lena. "But nothing. I'm telling you, I need that seat. My company, Sterling Energy Solutions, has a critical meeting in Zurich with the shareholders of Trans Global Fuels." He puffed out his chest. "I fly this route every month. This woman," he gestured dismissively at Lena, "she's probably a last-minute upgrade. Just tell her to step aside. Give her a voucher or something. I'm a Platinum Medallion member." Lena listened, her expression unreadable. Sterling Energy Solutions. She recognized the name. A mid-tier fossil fuel services company that had been circling bankruptcy protection for the better part of the last fiscal quarter. A few years ago, Ether Dynamics had considered acquiring their logistics arm, but discarded the plan because the company's infrastructure was laughably outdated. "Mr. Sterling," Lena interrupted, her voice a cool blade of ice, "I am a 360 Diamond Medallion member, which is likely a tier you only dream about. Furthermore, my ticket for 1A was issued weeks ago. Perhaps the mix-up is yours." Mitch Sterling actually laughed, a dry, hacking sound. He looked Lena up and down, a look of outright contempt on his face. "Please, look at you. You think you have 360 status. You think your little company is worth more than mine. Sweetheart, this is first class, not a lottery win. The only thing you're running is maybe a hair salon. Just take the economy seat, get your voucher, and let the adults handle this." He turned back to the agent. "Travis, I need that seat. Do your job." Travis was visibly shaking now. He glanced at an older, stern-looking female supervisor, Ms. Eleanor Vance, who had just emerged from the back office and was approaching with a look of severe urgency. Ms. Vance took in the scene, Lena radiating calm authority, Mitch blustering and red-faced, and the panicked agent. She immediately understood the gravity of dealing with an actual 360 Diamond member, Lena, who would be tracked by the airline's executive team, versus a mere Platinum Medallion, Mitch, whose complaint could be easily managed. Yet, Ms. Vance did something that defied logic. She stepped toward Lena, not Mitch. "Dr. Thorne," Ms. Vance said, her voice strained but firm, "there has been a critical error. Mr. Sterling's seat was confirmed through a specialized, last-minute upgrade approved by our executive team." She lowered her voice conspiratorially, leaning close to Lena. "It's a matter of national security, Mom. He's carrying sensitive documents for a defense contract. We need you to cooperate. We've upgraded your compensation. We can offer you seat 14C, an exit row, very spacious with a full refund, plus an additional $5,000 travel credit." Lena's eyes narrowed further. National security? The very idea that a man who couldn't secure his own first-class ticket weeks in advance was now a last-minute courier for a defense contract was laughable. Ether Dynamics worked directly with the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA. She knew precisely how sensitive defense logistics worked. This was a lie. A poorly constructed, thinly veiled excuse. Mitch Sterling smirked triumphantly, retrieving his pass. He gave Lena a condescending nod. "See, now, if you'll excuse me, I have a country to help save. Enjoy the exit row, darling." He walked straight through the gate. The sheer, calculated arrogance of the man, coupled with the airline's blatant, racially charged dismissal of her status, hit Lena with a cold force. It wasn't just about the seat. It was the implicit message. Your success is disposable. His perceived importance, however flimsy, takes precedence. Ms. Vance pushed the newly printed boarding pass for 14C toward Lena. "Dr. Thorne, please, we need to close the gate." Lena didn't touch the pass. She held the supervisor's gaze, her eyes like chips of obsidian. A quiet rage, cold and absolute, began to boil beneath her veneer of corporate composure. "Ms. Vance," Lena said, pulling her personal phone from her briefcase, an exclusive model that cost more than a used car. She did not raise her voice. "You have just prioritized a platinum medallion carrying Sterling Energy Solutions documents over a 360 diamond customer who literally manages the data infrastructure for several of your company's own international logistics partners. Furthermore, you've insulted me with a blatant lie." She tapped her phone screen once. She looked at Ms. Vance, her face a mask of serene finality. "I will not be taking seat 14C. I will be making one call, and that call, Ms. Vance, is going to freeze Mr. Sterling's entire company and possibly a good chunk of your airline's immediate operational capacity until I am satisfied." She brought the phone to her ear. The number she dialed was a direct, unlisted line. The time was 10:15 p.m. EST. "Hello, Daniel," Lena said into the phone, her voice now a low, predatory purr. "Yes, it's me. I need you to initiate a Level 4 financial lockdown on a target I'm about to give you. I also need you to confirm the active operational status of the Delta Flight Network Control Center in Minneapolis. I need an update in less than 10 minutes. The color drained from Ms. Vance's face. Daniel was Daniel Kincaid, the head of Global Risk Management for Capital One Bank, Ether Dynamics' primary financial institution. A Level 4 financial lockdown was not a joke. It was an immediate, court-approved cessation of all outgoing transactions and a freeze on all assets and lines of credit, usually reserved for confirmed fraud or corporate espionage. Lena turned and walked past the gate, away from the boarding jetway, not once looking back at the abandoned ticket for 14C. The silence she left behind was louder than any screaming match. Mitch Sterling was currently settling comfortably into seat 1A, a smug smile on his face, oblivious that the entire financial infrastructure supporting his little energy company was, at that very second, being wrapped in a tightening, billion-dollar chain of corporate devastation. Dr. Lena Thorne didn't go far. She found a secluded business pod near the club-level entrance, her fingers flying across her phone and a secure tablet. The initial call to Daniel Kincaid, the risk manager at Capital One, had been less than 5 minutes, but its reverberations were already spreading like an invisible financial shockwave. Daniel, a pragmatic man who understood the value of Ether Dynamics accounts and the sheer speed with which Lena operated, didn't need a lengthy explanation. A Level 4 lockdown was typically reserved for extreme circumstances, but Lena's word was currency. Her brief explanation: "Target has demonstrated extreme, reckless operational instability and potential immediate asset liquidation risk. Initiate freeze immediately. The target, Sterling Energy Solutions, in Corsa." Daniel's team didn't just freeze their primary checking accounts. They placed holds on all unsecured credit lines, stopped all ACH transfers, and flagged all incoming wire transfers from key partners, effectively creating a corporate tourniquet. Sterling Energy had a precarious cash flow, relying heavily on a daily operational cycle of incoming payments to cover immediate vendor costs. This freeze meant everything stopped instantly. Minutes later, Lena received a secure ping. "Daniel confirms Level 4 activation. All Sterling Energy outgoing funds are held. Inbound funds flagged. Total assets frozen. Approximately $450 million in operational capital and credit lines." The message continued, detailing the ancillary damage. Target's primary European vendor, Europipe Logistics, EPL, has a $3.5 million payment scheduled to clear in T-15 minutes. It will fail. That payment is for transport currently in transit. Lena smiled, a thin, almost imperceptible curve of her lips. She wasn't just freezing assets. She was actively disrupting the physical operation. Her second objective was the airline. She logged into Ether Dynamics' secure client interface, a proprietary system nicknamed the Hydra, a nod to its many-headed data connections. She didn't manage Delta's internal systems, but she managed the AI infrastructure for several of their critical suppliers and partners, particularly those involved in global cargo and maintenance scheduling. She sent a single coded message through the Hydra to her head of data operations, Marcus Sinclair, back at Ether's headquarters in San Francisco. LT to MS. Code Zulu 1. Isolate and stress test the operational data streams associated with client Atlas Skyways, Delta's code name in her system. Look for immediate, non-critical but highly impactful data degradation on the Zurich-bound route infrastructure. Execute at T+20 minutes. This wasn't sabotage. It was a targeted, aggressive stress test designed to expose theoretical vulnerabilities. It would manifest as intermittent data errors in scheduling, baggage tracing, and maintenance reports, enough to cause severe operational anxiety without crashing a plane. Meanwhile, on board Flight DL-128, Mitch Sterling was reveling in his triumph. He stretched his legs out in seat 1A, demanding the flight attendant, Sarah, bring him a double scotch. Neat. You know, you people should really learn to handle your seating better. He slurred slightly, already feeling the effects of the club's free drinks. That woman, she clearly didn't belong here. Good thing I was able to straighten things out. Important business, you know. Sarah, a seasoned attendant, offered a plastic smile, internally calculating the precise moment she could retreat without being rude. She had seen the interaction at the gate. She knew who the real 360 Diamond customer was. The aircraft pushed back from the gate exactly on time. Mitch was clinking his ice, feeling the superiority of his position. T-10. Minutes to takeoff. Mitch's personal phone, which he had foolishly left on silent in his jacket pocket, began to vibrate wildly. It was his CFO, Howard Jensen. Mitch ignored it, signaling Sarah for another drink. T-5. Minutes to takeoff. The vibration intensified. Now it was Howard's secretary, followed by the chief legal counsel, Vivian Shaw. Mitch, irritated, finally checked the screen. He had 17 missed calls and 3 urgent texts. He opened the first text from Howard. Mitch, call me now. Capital One locked everything. All wire transfers bouncing. EPL just seized the Rotterdam shipment. This is a catastrophe. Mitch's smugness evaporated, replaced by a cold, stomach-churning panic. Europipe Logistics, EPL, seizing the shipment, meant the critical components needed for their Zurich presentation, the very reason he was flying, were now stranded in the Netherlands. He grabbed the in-flight satellite phone, his hands shaking. He dialed Howard's direct line. Howard, what the hell is going on? What seizure? What freeze? He hissed into the receiver, ignoring the attendant's warning about phone use. Howard's voice was sharp with terror and fury. It's a level 4 lockdown, Mitch. Capital One, our primary bank. They cited extreme instability and risk, but won't elaborate. Every single outgoing payment failed. The $3.5 million to EPL bounced, and they immediately implemented the contractual seizure clause. We just lost the Zurich components, and the entire $15 million contract is in jeopardy. Mitch ran a trembling hand through his thinning hair. But why? Who did this? I don't know. They won't tell me. They said it was initiated by a third-party risk assessment, a client they trust implicitly. We're dead in the water, Mitch. The company credit cards are being declined at the airport coffee shops. We have zero liquidity." Mitch looked around the luxurious first-class cabin, the soft lighting and the leather seating suddenly feeling like a prison. His mind raced. He had enemies, competitors, but who had the unilateral power to trigger a Level 4 lockdown on a company the size of Sterling Energy without any warning. Only someone connected to the highest levels of global finance and data. He thought back to the gate, to the calm, composed woman in the Italian suit. Dr. Lena Thorne. I will be making one call, and that call is going to freeze Mr. Sterling's entire company. It couldn't be. It was impossible. She was just a woman. A competitor's assistant, maybe. Not the kind of person who could drop $1 billion hammer. Just as Mitch was sputtering a denial into the satellite phone, the flight deck door opened. The captain, Captain David Rodriguez, emerged, looking tense. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is the captain," he announced over the intercom, his voice grave. "We've been instructed to hold our position on the taxiway. We have a ground stop notification due to what they are calling immediate critical data stream discrepancies impacting our European flight management protocol. We need to reset several operational systems. This is unexpected, and we apologize for the delay. We are receiving updated information from our control center now." Mitch's eyes went wide. Immediate critical data stream discrepancies. Lena Thorne had said she would freeze his company. She had said she would affect the airline's operational capacity. Mitch slammed the phone down. He scrambled out of seat 1A, ignoring the flight attendant's protest. He barreled down the aisle, his heart pounding a desperate rhythm against his ribs. He had to get off this plane. He had to stop this. He reached the galley. "Get me out of here. This is an emergency. I need to talk to the gate agent now. This is related to a massive financial failure involving one of your high-level customers." The flight attendant, Sarah, stood her ground. "Sir, we are locked in. The door is armed. You must return to your seat immediately." But Mitch Sterling had just realized the terrible truth. The sophisticated, elegant black woman he had humiliated and dismissed back at the gate was not just a CEO. She was a kingmaker, and she had just declared war. The mood inside the first-class cabin of Flight DL-128 had curdled from luxurious comfort to tense, whispered speculation. Mitch Sterling, red-faced and agitated, was being escorted back to seat 1A by the visibly annoyed Captain Rodriguez. "Mr. Sterling," the captain's voice was low and dangerous, "you are disturbing the flight crew and jeopardizing the safety protocols. If you do not sit down, I will have you removed and placed on the no-fly list. Is that clear?" Mitch slumped into his seat, the leather feeling suddenly cold and rough. He looked down at his phone. 24 new texts, most of them from his chief legal counsel, Vivian Shaw. "Vivian. Mitch, I'm at Capital One. They are stonewalling us. It's a risk assessment based on an immediate, credible instability threat. This is not random. This is targeted. Vivian. I just spoke to the Zurich contact. They heard about the EPL seizure. They're demanding collateral and may pull the acquisition deal. They are asking who Ether Dynamics is. Do you know them?" Mitch felt a punch of sickening realization. He knew exactly who Ether Dynamics was. He thought back to Dr. Lena Thorne's calm, terrifying threat. He grabbed the attention of the lead flight attendant, Sarah, who was trying to serve drinks with an air of normalcy. "Sarah," he whispered urgently, "I need to speak to the captain again. This is about that woman at the gate, the one who had seat 1A. Sarah hesitated, then, seeing the genuine panic in his eyes, reluctantly agreed. Captain Rodriguez returned, crossing his arms. "Make it fast, Mr. Sterling. The operational delay is growing." Captain, the data stream discrepancies you mentioned, they're connected to the woman I had removed from this seat, Dr. Lena Thorne. She's the CEO of Ether Dynamics. The captain's professional facade broke for a fleeting second. He blinked. Ether Dynamics, the logistics infrastructure group. Yes, she made a call and threatened to freeze my company and impact your operational capacity. My company's funds, hundreds of millions, are completely frozen right now. I believe she is intentionally causing this disruption through her company's back-end access. Captain Rodriguez, a veteran of decades in the air, knew the complex web of vendors that kept a modern airline running. Ether Dynamics wasn't just a vendor. They were the invisible oil that lubricated the modern supply chain. The sudden, inexplicable data errors made perfect, chilling sense. He immediately pulled out his satellite communication handset and requested a priority connection to the Delta Network Control Center, NCC, in Minneapolis. In Minneapolis, at the sprawling Delta NCC, the mood was frantic. Technicians were staring at flashing red alerts caused by the stress test Marcus Sinclair had initiated. The system wasn't crashing, but key data packets for international flight routing and maintenance logging were degrading rapidly. NCC manager Paul Evans answered the captain's priority call. Captain Rodriguez, we're having intermittent issues on the E-band routing. We have a ground stop. This isn't just you. It's affecting all Atlantic long hauls. Paul, listen to me, the captain said, lowering his voice. I have a passenger here, a Mr. Sterling, who was involved in a seating dispute with Dr. Lena Thorne of Ether Dynamics. He claims she is responsible for both a massive financial freeze on his company and this operational data issue. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. Paul Evans knew exactly who Lena Thorne was. Ether Dynamics wasn't just a partner. They were a central pillar in the logistical architecture of the modern air cargo and maintenance fleet that kept Delta flying. The idea that she could intentionally and legally initiate a destabilizing stress test was terrifying. Captain, hold the line, Paul barked. He turned to his lead technician. Check the access logs. Who is associated with the Atlas Skyways stress test parameters. Look for a recent high-level client-side activation. Seconds later, the technician reported back, his voice strained. Sir, the stress test spike is tied to an access ID designated LT Alpha. It's an executive-level account, and it originated from Ether Dynamics' secure client portal. The activation code matches a top-tier account holder. It's their CEO, Paul. It's Dr. Thorne. Paul Evans felt a cold rush of adrenaline. This was not a customer complaint. This was an act of economic warfare initiated by one of the most powerful people in the industry. Captain, Paul hissed into the phone, the passenger's information is credible. She is actively impacting our data streams. The airline executive team needs to be notified immediately. Do not let that man off the plane. We need leverage. Back in Seat 1A, Mitch Sterling was a portrait of desperation. The ground stop was now being broadcast on CNN international tickers, categorized as a mysterious data glitch. The scale of his self-inflicted disaster was becoming terrifyingly clear. Captain Rodriguez returned, his expression grim. Mr. Sterling, your seat dispute has now become an international incident impacting multiple flights. The gate supervisor, Ms. Vance, is being interviewed by airport security, and she is pointing directly at you for causing a deliberate, documented service disruption to a 360 Diamond customer. I need to fix this, Mitch pleaded, his voice cracking. I need to talk to her. She's the only one who can stop the freeze. The captain sighed. You're lucky she didn't just walk onto the plane and take the seat back. She left the airport 20 minutes ago. However, her actions are not random. The NCC is confirming the link. Where is she? Give me her number." "We don't give out CEOs' personal numbers, Mr. Sterling, but I can relay a message through the NCEC to the Delta Executive Office, who will then forward it to Ether Dynamics' head of communications," the captain said, his tone heavy with professional disdain. "It will be relayed that the Platinum Medallion customer, Mitch Sterling, who took Seat 1A through questionable means, is now begging Dr. Thorne to reverse the corporate freeze that is currently sinking his company." The public humiliation was a bitter pill, but Mitch had no choice. His entire life's work, his company, his reputation, the very trip to Zurich that was supposed to secure his legacy, was crumbling around him. Tell her I apologize. Tell her I will personally meet her anywhere in the world to make restitution. Tell her I will fly back on the next flight, in economy, and personally hand-deliver a full, written apology to her office. He ran his hand over the soft leather of Seat 1A. "Tell her I am returning her seat." The captain nodded curtly and left to relay the message. Meanwhile, Dr. Lena Thorne was now in a chauffeured private vehicle, heading to a different private terminal, where a Gulfstream G650, owned by Blackstone Group, was waiting to fly her on an expedited route directly to Zurich. She had just received Marcus Sinclair's confirmation that the stress test was working exactly as intended. Her phone pinged. It was the forwarded message from the Delta Executive Office. It was a formal, terse summation of Mitch Sterling's desperate plea, detailing the immediate threat to his $450 million in assets. Her retribution was not just about inconvenience or an apology, it was about absolute, surgical control. She would let the world know why Sterling Energy was failing, turning her small, private humiliation into a global corporate lesson. The $1 billion valuation of Ether Dynamics was about to buy a very public demonstration of power. The news hit the wire before the ground stop was officially lifted. The initial reports were confused, focusing on the mysterious data glitch causing widespread flight delays, particularly for transatlantic routes originating from ATL. Then came the second, devastating wave of news, initiated by the Capital One press statement. Financial Times headline, 12 p.m. EST. Capital One freezes Sterling Energy assets, citing major unmitigated operational risk. Stock plunges 40% in pre-market trading. Bloomberg News alert. Sources confirm 3.5 million Europipe logistics contract seized. Sterling Energy CEO Mitch Sterling reportedly grounded on a taxiway in Atlanta. This alone would have been enough to tank the company. But the final, crushing blow came 2 hours later, when an anonymous source, a source very much connected to the Delta Executive Office and receiving strategic guidance from Daniel Kincaid, leaked the true, petty cause of the financial warfare to a high-profile business news blogger, Vanessa Hall, known for her relentless investigative reporting. Vanessa Hall's exposé, titled "The Billion-Dollar Seat: How a Mid-Tier CEO's Ego Tanked His Company Over First Class," went viral instantly. It detailed with humiliating accuracy the confrontation at Gate E34. It named Dr. Lena Thorne, the formidable black CEO of Ether Dynamics, as the unjustly displaced passenger. It recounted Mitch Sterling's condescending comments and the airline's blatant, racially charged favoritism. The article published a grainy, zoomed-in photo taken by a startled bystander. Mitch Sterling, red-faced and triumphant, walking past a poised, unmoving Lena Thorne. The narrative was devastating. A white, entitled, and failing CEO had publicly insulted a black female tech titan, believing his temporary privilege outweighed her earned power, and had paid the ultimate corporate price. The reaction was immediate and seismic. Sterling Energy Solutions' already shaky stock plummeted another 30% after the article dropped, hitting rock bottom. Major shareholders, including the usually passive Franklin Mutual Funds, began demanding an immediate emergency board meeting and Sterling's resignation. The social media backlash was a maelstrom of schadenfreude and outrage, with hashtags like Art Billion Dollar Seat and Marsus Karma in Maronei trending globally. Dr. Lena Thorne was hailed as a quiet, powerful avenger, a corporate legend who wielded her economic power with surgical precision. Aboard the still-delayed Flight DL-128, Mitch Sterling watched the unfolding disaster on the seatback screen, which was now carrying a live report on his company's collapse. He was physically sickened. Captain Rodriguez, having received official permission to deplane the sole non-compliant passenger, returned with 2 large, stone-faced security officers. "Mr. Sterling," the captain announced publicly, ensuring the entire first-class cabin could hear, "your travel plans have been forcibly terminated due to your connection to a critical national security data breach and the subsequent destabilization of your corporate assets. You are being escorted off the aircraft. We trust you will resolve your affairs." Mitch was marched off the plane, his heavy duffel bag slung over the shoulder of one of the officers. The ground staff watched in stunned silence as the platinum medallion customer, the man who had demanded the seat of the now infamous Dr. Thorne, was publicly humiliated. He was taken to a sterile security office, not to be arrested, but to be held for a formal debriefing with Delta's legal team, who were now terrified of Ether Dynamics' response. "We need a full statement," Delta legal counsel, Mr. Grantley, stated coldly, reviewing the security footage of the Gate E-34 incident. "This airline cannot be associated with a perception of favoring racial bias and enabling corporate misconduct. Dr. Thorne is our most valuable partner. You have jeopardized an $800 million annual logistics contract." Mitch, stripped of his bravado, simply repeated his apology. "I will do anything. I need to contact her. I need to undo the freeze." Mr. Grantley offered a single olive branch, a flight back to San Francisco, Ether Dynamics' corporate home base. "We have booked you on Flight UA451, connecting through Chicago O'Hare, seat 46C. It's a middle seat in the very last row of economy. We suggest you take it. Your company jets are grounded, your cards are blocked. This is all we can offer." Mitch Sterling, who considered anything less than first class an insult to his status, had no recourse. His journey back across the continent, cramped between 2 strangers in the noisy rear of the aircraft, was a brutal, physical manifestation of his spectacular financial collapse. While Mitch endured his misery, Dr. Lena Thorne was arriving in Zurich, stepping off the Blackstone Gulf Stream. She was met by Mr. Alistair Finch, the senior partner from Blackstone, who was personally handling the acquisition pitch. "Lena," Alistair said, shaking her hand firmly, "the press is unbelievable. Ether Dynamics is all anyone is talking about. You've sent a clear message to the entire industry. Respect your partners, or suffer absolute, immediate destruction." "It was a necessary demonstration," Lena replied calmly, adjusting her briefcase. "The market needs to understand that Ether Dynamics is not just a technology provider. We are a sovereign economic entity, and our leadership is non-negotiable." Later that evening, after her successful pitch to acquire the robotics firm, the deal was sealed faster than anticipated, partly due to the sheer, terrifying demonstration of her power. Lena finally sat down to draft her response to Mitch Sterling's desperate plea. She sent the terms not to Mitch, but to his chief legal counsel, Vivian Shaw, with a carbon copy to the Delta Executive Office and Capital One's risk management team. The terms were brutal, absolute, and completely non-negotiable. They solidified the $1 billion value of the company's power and turned a moment of personal disrespect into a massive corporate acquisition and a career-ending humiliation. It was 7 a.m. Pacific time, a dismal, foggy morning in San Francisco, but the mood inside the Sterling Energy Solutions headquarters was far colder than the weather. The emergency board meeting had been called 30 minutes after Vivian Shaw, the chief legal counsel, received Dr. Lena Thorne's brutal ultimatum. The mood around the polished mahogany table was one of absolute panic, quickly hardening into ruthless self-preservation. Present were the three independent directors, the CFO Howard Jensen and Vivian Shaw. Mitch Sterling, having just landed at SFO after his humiliating flight in seat 46C, was currently in a taxi speeding toward the building, oblivious to the coup already underway. Howard Jensen opened the meeting, his face haggard. The market value of Sterling Energy is down 75% in the last 12 hours. Trading has been suspended, but the moment the level 4 freeze becomes permanent, we are looking at total insolvency. We have less than 12 hours before Capital One starts the formal bankruptcy process. Vivian Shaw laid out the terms of Dr. Thorne's demands, projecting the terse email onto the screen. A collective gasp went around the room when the directors saw the second term: divestment of the logistics subsidiary for $1. Director Lawrence Hayes, a seasoned finance veteran, slammed his fist on the table. $20 million worth of infrastructure, the most functional part of our company, for $1? This is corporate piracy. This is extortion. It is, Vivian agreed, her voice flat. But it is also a term of surrender. Dr. Thorne has not only frozen our finances, she has publicly destroyed our credibility. The media coverage is lethal. Our major investors, particularly Franklin Mutual Funds, are not asking for a strategy. They are demanding a scapegoat and an immediate resolution. The collateral damage to our stock and reputation far exceeds the $20 million value of the subsidiary. Director Charlotte Wells, the youngest and most pragmatic member, leaned forward. We have two options. One, challenge Dr. Thorne in court, which, given the documentation of Mitch's public behavior and the verifiable damage to Delta, would take months and end in bankruptcy anyway. Or two, accept her terms, sacrifice Mitch, and survive as a stripped-down but debt-free entity. Howard Jensen nodded grimly. If we accept the terms, Ether Dynamics takes our logistics burden, unfreezes our operational funds, and we retain the core energy contracts. We can spin this as a strategic consolidation of assets. We save the remaining 2,000 jobs. The conversation didn't last long. The sheer demonstrable power wielded by Lena Thorne, a power that respected no political or social boundaries, had cowed them into submission. They were not fighting a corporate rival. They were fighting a force of nature. Vivian Shaw pulled out a pre-drafted resolution. The majority of the board has agreed to an emergency vote. We are invoking Article 4, Clause 7 of the corporate bylaws, removal of the chief executive officer for gross misconduct, resulting in catastrophic financial exposure. The vote was unanimous, 4-0. Mitch Sterling was out. Mitch Sterling stumbled through the executive doors precisely 10 minutes after the vote was taken. He was disheveled, running on adrenaline and stale airplane coffee. He carried his heavy duffel bag, looking more like a disgruntled traveling salesman than a CEO. "Howard! Vivian, I'm here! We need to call Capital One. I'll fly back to Zurich. I'll apologize. Just tell me how we fix this," he burst out, frantic. The silence in the room was absolute. 4 pairs of eyes stared at him, stripped of sympathy. Vivian Shaw pushed a printed stack of documents across the table, a resignation letter, the board resolution, and Dr. Thorne's terms of surrender. "Mitch," she said, her voice devoid of emotion, "you can't fix this. It's already fixed. The board voted 10 minutes ago. You are no longer the CEO of Sterling Energy Solutions." Mitch stared, the color draining from his face until he was the pale gray of the foggy morning outside. What? You can't. I built this company. It was a slight misunderstanding. It was one seat. It was a $20 million error, Mitch, Lawrence Hayes interjected coldly. And the end of our liquidity. We have accepted Dr. Thorne's terms. Mitch snatched up the documents, his eyes darting across the brutal, concise demands. Public apology. Divest the logistics arm for $1.0. Immediate resignation. He looked up, a plea forming on his lips. Vivian, please. I'll sign the apology. I'll take a pay cut. I'll take a 6-month sabbatical. Just don't let her take the logistics arm. Vivian shook her head slowly. Those are the terms for the reversal of the freeze. You caused this, Mitch. Your arrogance in refusing to simply take the compromise seat, your publicly documented contempt for a colleague who happens to be a black woman, has cost this company its future. Dr. Thorne's price is non-negotiable. The weight of the consequences finally crushed him. The realization that his petty, racist arrogance had been seen, recorded, and countered by a force he couldn't even comprehend left him broken. He didn't yell or argue. He simply sank into the nearest chair. What if I refuse to sign? He mumbled, his bravado completely gone. Howard Jensen answered, his voice hard. Then we file bankruptcy in 48 hours. The company dies. The remaining assets, including the logistics arm, will be sold for pennies to cover debt. You lose everything anyway. Sign and you get to walk away with your personal accounts, unfrozen. And 2,000 people keep their jobs, even if their boss is now Dr. Thorne. Mitch Sterling picked up the pen. His hand was trembling so violently that the first signature on the resignation letter was an illegible scrawl. He signed all 3 documents. The act of signing over a $20 million division for a single dollar was the most humiliating transaction of his life. Vivian Shaw took the signed documents, scanned them immediately, and sent the secure file to Dr. Lena Thorne's corporate office in Zurich. The accompanying email was brief. All 3 terms have been met. Mitch Sterling's resignation is attached. The board resolution authorizing the transfer of the logistics subsidiary, assets, debt, and personnel for $1 is attached. The signed public apology has been sent for immediate publication in the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times. We humbly request the reversal of the Level 4 lockdown. Vivian then looked at Mitch. Your office has been cleaned out. Your company car has been sent back. You are to be escorted out of the building now. Do not return. Mitch, the former CEO, stood up, picked up his duffel bag, and, without a word, was led away by building security. The ultimate, silent walk of shame. Dr. Lena Thorne was in the final stage of her acquisition meeting, reviewing the financial models of the Swiss robotics firm. Her tablet pinged with Vivian Shaw's secured email containing the signed documents. She paused the meeting and opened the file, reviewing the signatures. A slight smile, cold and satisfied, touched her lips. $20 million for $1. The transfer of the entire logistics division would be frictionless, already managed by Ether's data architecture, making the acquisition less an external merger and more an internal absorption. She looked at her team. Gentlemen, the obstacle has been removed. We have acquired the necessary logistical framework from Sterling Energy Solutions. We can now proceed with the final integration plan for the robotics division. She typed a 2-word reply to Daniel Kincaid at Capital One. Green light. Within 15 minutes, the Level 4 lockdown on Sterling Energy Solutions was reversed. The wire transfers flowed again. The credit lines were restored. The European vendors, including EPL, received their overdue payments. Sterling Energy, a corporate shadow of its former self, was saved from immediate death. But the company, and its reputation, had been irreversibly changed. The public apology, dictated word for word by Lena Thorne's legal team, was printed as a half-page advertisement in the next morning's editions of the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times. The wording was stark and unapologetic in its honesty. Public statement of apology and acknowledgement of misconduct. Mitch Sterling, formerly CEO of Sterling Energy Solutions, issues this unreserved and absolute apology to Dr. Lena Thorne, CEO of Ether Dynamics, for my actions at Gate E34 at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport on date of incident. My aggressive and entitled insistence on taking Seat 1A, which was rightfully assigned to Dr. Thorne, was compounded by my profoundly regrettable and racially biased dismissal of her professional status and earned success. My behavior was discriminatory and unprofessional. My actions led directly to massive financial instability at Sterling Energy Solutions and unwarranted operational disruption for Delta Airlines. I acknowledge that Dr. Thorne's response was a justified and measured defense of her professional dignity and corporate standing. I have resigned from my position and divested my interest in the company. I accept full responsibility for the catastrophic failure and the immense disrespect shown to Dr. Thorne. This apology was the final act of karma, making Mitch's humiliation permanent and public. It was the ultimate demonstration that in the new economy, respect and meritocracy were non-negotiable, and that the old guard's entitled privileges could be instantaneously wiped out by the power of data and finance. Mitch Sterling was not destitute. His personal assets, thankfully for him, had been protected from the Level 4 lockdown by Capital One. He still had a multi-million-dollar home and a sizable retirement fund, but he had lost the one thing he truly valued, his status. He was blacklisted from every major industry. His name was a global symbol of corporate entitlement and failure. He was the man who traded his entire company for the right to sit in Seat 1A for 5 minutes. The fate of Delta personnel, Ms. Eleanor Vance, the supervisor who had engineered the seat swap with the national security lie, was immediately terminated by Delta. Travis, the nervous gate agent, was given a formal reprimand, but retained his job, largely because he cooperated fully with the internal investigation and acknowledged his immediate regret. Ether Dynamics' victory, the acquisition of the Sterling Logistics subsidiary, combined with the successful pitch in Zurich, added nearly $100 million in combined synergy value to Ether Dynamics' projected growth. Dr. Lena Thorne did not just win the battle for Seat 1A. She used the entire incident as a highly public, multi-million-dollar opportunity to demonstrate the scale and speed of her corporate power. The media crowned Dr. Lena Thorne a corporate legend. She had turned a moment of casual, systemic disrespect into a lesson for the entire financial world. Disrupt her path, and she will disrupt your entire existence. The cost of that first-class seat for Mitch Sterling was not just $20 million, it was the entire foundation of his professional life. The incident at Gate E34, swiftly followed by the corporate destruction of Sterling Energy Solutions, was dubbed by the global financial media as the Thorne Doctrine. It was a powerful, practical case study taught in business schools, a lesson not just in market power, but in the intersection of personal dignity and corporate leverage. Dr. Lena Thorne did not retreat from the spotlight. She harnessed it. The visibility generated by the saga amplified Ether Dynamics' profile, positioning the company as an indispensable, almost untouchable, infrastructure provider. Her acquisition of the Sterling Logistics subsidiary was quickly and efficiently integrated, using Ether's sophisticated AI to optimize routes and cut operating costs by 40% within the first quarter. This demonstrated that her actions were not merely emotional retribution, but ruthlessly effective corporate strategy. Lena's reputation solidified as someone whose respect was a prerequisite for business partnership. Major corporations across logistics, finance, and defense began including ethical conduct and non-discrimination clauses in their partnership agreements, clauses often unofficially known as the Lena Amendments. These were formal contractual obligations designed to protect executive partners from the kind of gross misconduct Mitch Sterling had displayed, carrying stiff financial penalties if violated. The cost of one first-class seat had literally begun changing corporate contract law. The Zurich Robotics acquisition closed successfully, funded partly by the incredible market confidence and increased stock valuation of Ether Dynamics following the highly public demonstration of their CEO's power. Lena Thorne's calculated fury had turned a humiliating inconvenience into a multi-million-dollar corporate triumph and a global cultural moment. Mitch Sterling's promised $5,000 travel voucher and the refund for his first-class ticket from the airline remained unclaimed. He no longer traveled. His life had become one of silent, profound exile. The wealth he retained, his lavish house in the suburbs of Dallas, his substantial retirement fund, became a cage. He was too financially secure to truly suffer destitution, but too socially poisonous to re-enter his former world. Every golf course, every high-end club, every charitable board on which he had once presided, now treated him like a pariah. The public apology, printed for millions to see, was an indelible mark. He tried to start a small consultancy firm, leveraging his decades of industry experience, but the calls never came. A quick Google search of his name instantly brought up the infamous Wall Street Journal apology and the accompanying articles detailing his financial and moral collapse. No company wanted to risk the Thorne Doctrine being invoked against them by association. The true, permanent karma wasn't poverty. It was irrelevance. He watched from the sidelines as his former colleagues, some of whom were less competent, continued to thrive, having learned the bitter lesson he had paid for. The company he built, Sterling Energy Solutions, was slowly stabilized by the new board under a temporary CEO. It survived, but the logistics arm, the functional heart that Lena Thorne had excised, continued to operate successfully under the Ether Dynamics banner, a constant, tangible reminder of his failure. 1 year after the incident, Mitch's wife filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and the humiliation of public scandal. She took the Dallas house. Mitch was last tracked living in a modest condo complex in suburban Houston, spending his days watching cable news, occasionally calling former associates who never returned his calls. He never once publicly commented on the incident again, the shame of the written apology having finally silenced his ego. The black female CEO, Dr. Lena Thorne, ascended to an even higher level of global influence, using her story as a shield and a weapon. The white male CEO, Mitch Sterling, received his harsh, real-life karma. The loss of the single thing he valued, his status and power, leaving him with hollow riches. The entire event became a cautionary tale about the changing dynamics of global power, where old money and entitled behavior were being rapidly eclipsed by data, innovation, and, critically, the absolute economic power wielded by a new generation of leaders who would tolerate zero disrespect. The price of that first-class seat was paid in full, with corporate dignity, financial freedom, and a legacy permanently forfeited. The story of Dr. Lena Thorne, Mitch Sterling, and the billion-dollar seat is more than just airport drama. It's a stark, real-life lesson in the price of arrogance and the overwhelming power of earned influence. Mitch Sterling believed his status entitled him to disrespect a powerful woman of color. Dr. Thorne taught him that true power isn't about the seat you sit in, but the financial architecture you control. A single quiet phone call didn't just freeze a billion-dollar company. It changed the rules of engagement for corporate behavior globally. This story is a testament to the fact that hard work and brilliance always trump outdated entitlement. If this incredible tale of corporate karma, power, and ultimate retribution resonated with you, show your support. Like this video, share this powerful story with your networks, and hit that subscribe button. We will continue to bring you the most compelling, real-life dramas from the world of success and failure. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done in Dr. Thorne's position?